Welcome to my channel. My name is Malika, and today we're going to be finishing up my series on inner childhood trauma. And this is the part where I talk about my childhood trauma. And I just want to say thank you to those of you who have been watching the series. I want to say thank you to my old and new subscribers. And let's get into this video because it's real. Like, it's real. It's a heavy topic to talk about this because childhood trauma is something that it can run your life without you even knowing it. And I'm being real, raw, and unfiltered right now because I feel like oftentimes when we talk about this stuff, we like to gloss over it and make it seem like one way and this way and that way, when it's really like it can be a very tough thing because lots of people go through molestation, rape, abuse, physical abuse, mental abuse, verbal abuse, neglect, starvation, abandonment, if I didn't already say that. Those are not issues to just gloss over, you know what I'm saying? As a child, I was neglected, I was abandoned, and to further along that initial trauma, I was abandoned again. I was verbally and mentally abused, and this all happened from women figures in my life. And it started off with my birth mother, who had a drug addiction. She was addicted to drugs, and she was addicted to drugs while pregnant with me for some of the pregnancy. And I've never shared this before, so excuse all the pausing in between. I didn't realize that this video would be difficult to kind of make, but it is, because it's a video that requires vulnerability, and that is not something that I like to do, especially in places where I don't know you all, a lot of you. So anyway, so I entered into this world already being abused. And, granted, my mother, everybody suffers from their own traumas, and I know that she's had her own, and this is no excuse for what she did, but yeah, that's just to say, like, my mother was clearly trying to soothe her own pain, and through her soothing her own pain, she was creating pain for me, right? And so I came out of the womb abused. And then, you know, I think for a period of time my mother got clean. And then she got back off the wagon again. And a big part of my childhood is blurred. I don't have a lot of memories for a lot of the parts of my childhood, but the ones I do are very significant. And when you're doing when you're doing this inner childhood work, healing, a lot of new memories can come up for you too, because that has happened to me. Yeah, so she fell off the wagon, you know. My sister was born first, and from my knowledge, everything was good. And then she got on drugs, and then my dad tried to get her off, and all of that. Anyways, so early on in my childhood, you know, my mother got back on drugs, and the neglect and the abandonment, not only towards me, but towards my sister, ramped up, of course, as somebody gets deeper and deeper in their addiction. Things happen. Now, the story about how my father was removed from our family our family home at the time is one way if you ask my dad, and another way if you ask my mom. So I'm just going to leave it at my father was removed from the home. And there was a chunk of my life where I was just under the rule and the guise of my mom. And I remember being left at home for days at a time, and my sister having to, first and foremost, let me say this is not a rag against my mom. My mom has been clean for a significant amount of time, and we are working on rebuilding our relationship. So I just want to throw that out there. I didn't realize this video would be so hard to make, because it's like sharing this side of yourself with the world that you don't necessarily want them to know, but you know that if you tell your story, you will help somebody realize they're not alone, and that they don't have to go through this alone. So, you know, I remember me and my sister being home alone a lot. My sister having to figure out how to feed me and herself. I remember eating chicken broth or any type of broth with nothing. I remember my sister trying to help comb my hair for school. I remember a lot of things. I remember being locked in the room with my sister and without my sister, and being taken to random hotels and motels, and just being left alone a lot. I remember coming home from school. And to my grandpappy, that's what I called him, my grandpappy. He also was into drugs as well, on and off, I guess, in his later part of his life, maybe earlier, I don't know. But I remember coming home from school from my grandpappy's house and just getting on the porch, and there was like this little thing on the porch. I remember it off the porch, but from talking to my sister, she said there was no way that it could really be off the porch. So there was this box thing on the porch, right? And it was something that I could climb into and close shut. I remember going in that thing every day that I was with my grandfather and just locking myself away in that thing and just hiding because I didn't want to have to deal with whatever was going on in the house or anything like that. And I remember, so when I'm telling you this for a reason. When I started to do my, and for a long time, that was one of the fondest, not the fondest, let me not, not the fondest, but that was one of the most pivotal, burnt in my brain memories, is being in that thing, that little box thing, and sitting in there, you know, for hours and hours and hours, just hiding myself away. I'm telling you this because when I started to do my inner childhood work, that is a memory that the meditations, the visualizations would take me back to. And I would literally, I mean, I remember starting off this work, and when I get back to that place, the door is closed. And I have to open that door, and I have to see my younger self, my 5-year-old self there. My 4-year-old, my 5-ish year old self there. And it took a long time for her to want to come out of that box. And then when I got her out of the box, it took her a long time to want to come. It took her a long time to want to come out of my grandpappy's front yard, for lack of a better way. If you're familiar with northern states, they have like row houses. So my grandpappy had like a row house, and so there wasn't much of a front yard, just enough, you know what I'm saying? And it took a lot for her to want to come out of that area, and I'm still working on that aspect. That's why I'm naming this video My Inner Childhood Trauma and How I'm Healing It, because it's not something that you're just going to heal overnight. There's layers to it, there's steps to it, right? So anyways, that's the first part of my trauma and my abandonment, because my mother abandoned me for drugs. She neglected me and my sister for drugs, but this is about me. So she neglected me for drugs. I did not receive the mother's love that I wanted and needed at that time in my life. So you have that mother wounding as well aspect. So fast forward, I'm 6 years old. My dad gets custody of me and my sister. Well, I believe I'm 5 going on 6. And my dad gets custody of my sister and I, and he is dating his ex-wife, who turned to be my stepmother. When I moved to Georgia, they got married again. And I don't know, you know, like we started to bond and everything like that. I was young, of course, you know, and she was giving me the affection that I needed and deserved at that time. Anyways, fast forward, we moved to Georgia, blah, blah, blah. I grow up. Her and my dad's relationship becomes strained. There's a lot of back and forth. And my stepmother definitely has her issues on her own. She dipped in and out and in and out. So there's that level of abandonment too. But she was also very emotionally abusive, and sometimes verbally abusive. I started to gain weight as a child, and she would make comments about that. She would always be in and out of me and my sister's lives, or always pushing us in and out of her life. And then the verbal abuse comes, you know, like about making comments about my weight, you know, treating me differently than she treated her actual biological grandchildren or children. because I grew up, my nieces, you know, I grew up around them and they were around the same age as me and my sister. And so we were more like cousins than we were nieces and aunties, because I would be the aunt and they would be the nieces. But anyway, so she would treat them differently. I remember having to walk home from school while she would drive literally past me with my niece in the car. There's so much more, but to keep this video a little bit condensed, because I see we're at 17 minutes already, but I'm probably going to cut this down because there's a lot of pausing anyways. I experienced that type of abuse from her, and it's been that way with women in my life. Foundational women is what I like to call them. And so that is my childhood trauma, my abandonment, my neglect, the emotional and verbal abuse, that all took a toll on my psyche, of course, on my psyche. And I didn't really even realize it. I always longed for mother's love. Oh, and mother wounding. So neglect, mother wounding, verbal and emotional abuse, and abandonment. So about 5 different traumas there. So I didn't even realize that I was operating from that. I always was nurturing and loving. That's just my personality. I'm very nurturing and very caring. But at a point in time, like, it got to the point where I stopped being that way, and I developed a very hard outer core because I'm very sensitive, and my sensitivity is my superpower, yo. It's I just want to say, side note, you being sensitive is not a weakness, okay? It's your superpower. It's how you relate to others. It was given to you, okay, on purpose, so that you could relate in a deep way with others. And yeah, it hurts. Yeah, you're moody. Yeah, whatever. But, you know, embrace that, okay? Embrace that. But I have this nurturing, very caring side to me, and I attract a lot. Yeah, let's just say it. I attract a lot of people in my life who want to be energy vampires or need healing, and once they get healed, or once they get what they want from me energetically, they go back to their little corner in their little space, right? So I had to learn about that. And I'm 28, and I literally started working on this stuff at 27. So you're never too old to start on this. There's people older than me just now starting on healing their childhood trauma, right? I didn't even realize I was operating from this way. It took me to realize, as I was getting divorced, to realize all these things that were coming up for me, and realizing, like, yo, 6-year-old slash, let me put it this way, 6-year-old Malika was really running the show. Okay, I've had a breakthrough with 6-year-old Malika, right? So now I'm moving on to, I would say, it's a span of years. So I would say anywhere from 8-year-old to 17 or 16-year-old Malika. Now we're working on her. Okay, now we're working on her because we've worked a lot on 6-year-old Malika, 6-5-ish year old Malika, 4, but we're just putting it at 6. Now we're working on 8 to 16-year-old Malika, because it's all jammed up into that area, right? So your situation can be similar to mine, right? Where it took place for a couple of years, so you're not just stuck with one age bracket. So now I'm working on that with what I went through with my stepmother. It came to a point where I just had to completely cut her off, and for a long time I didn't talk to my birth mother as well. We really just started talking on a level where I was just like, you know what? We need to heal this. We need to work through this. Now, with my stepmother, I've severed ties with her. The last time I really spoke to her was 2012. So, that's dead and done. And I want you guys to know something. Sometimes you're not going to get that closure from the other person. So you just have to work through that yourself. You have to mother yourself, like I was telling you in the other video with the techniques. Okay. So now I'm just going to kind of like share with you how like this childhood wounding materialized in my life. It materialized in my relationships. I've seen it in almost every relationship that I've ever had, where the abandonment is the biggest issue. Okay, that's the one that always materializes, and the other one would have to be the neglect, sometimes the verbal abuse. That's how it materialized in my life. And I can't believe, like, I just learned all about this when I was 27. So that's how it started to materialize in my relationships, and it always materializes in my relationships. Because my North Node is in Sagittarius and it's in my 7th house of relationships. So this is why you guys need to know your birth chart, because where your Chiron is, the wounded healer, and your North Node, it could tell you a lot about your life. So anyway, side note. And I am having to learn how to give myself the love that I deserve and need, and not look for that in a partner necessarily. Not saying that it will never come from them, but it's your childhood trauma can make it codependent, right? So because I didn't receive the loving and the nurturing and the caring stuff that I wanted, it made me overly do that to my partners or my friends, my family members, and therefore I get taken advantage of because I'm trying to give them what wasn't given to me. And then also you start to expect them, or you start to have like resentment because they're not giving you what you desire, right? So it's like that double-edged sword where you have to learn, like, I've got to give this to myself, and I can't look for this outside of myself in a partner, because that doesn't necessarily mean that they don't love you. When you're in a healthy relationship, I want to stress healthy relationships, because we all have our own love languages, we all have our own wounding and all this, and everybody shares love in different ways. So even if I am in a healthy relationship, I cannot expect the other person to love me the exact same way that I would love them. That's what I'm trying to say. That doesn't mean that they're not going to give me the care and the nurturing and stuff like that. It's just that I can't look at that so strongly and so codependently that I'm back in another circle of repeating a cycle that I need to be breaking. So how I've been dealing with this is meditation, visualization, mothering myself, trying to recognize the patterns that I created and that I'm having in my own relationships of all types, trying to love myself the way I know I need to be loved and cared for. So instead of looking for that outside of myself, because I did that a lot too, now I'm trying to give myself the care and the love that I wanted, but giving it to myself, because self-love is the best love. And when you truly love yourself, anybody else is just a compliment to that, right? And I'm not saying that I have to be 100% healed, because I don't believe in that. But it would behoove me to really, really, really be working on this so I don't perpetuate the cycles. So if you go back to my second video and you're like, well, what are some things that I can do? I laid them all out, and that I have to be authentic, and I have to do what I know that I was set out here on this earth to do, and that was help people. And I'm going to help people even when it means that I have to take myself back to a place that's uncomfortable. But knowing that the outcome is going to be greater than my little 30 minutes of discomfort, right? Healing your childhood trauma will do for you. It will make you very empowered. It will make you so empowered that you feel like you can conquer the world, and it is because you can. And it also makes you a person who wants to be the healthiest person you can be, not just for yourself, but for all those that you really truly care about and that you know care about you. Please comment down below. I would love to hear from you. You don't have to share anything private. I would just love to hear if this was helpful to you, if you learned something new, if you now understand what childhood trauma can look like and how it can run your lives and your relationships. When you're healing yourself and you're understanding that you can bounce back from anything, that you're resilient, that you don't have to hold on to that dirt. Like I told y'all in my previous video that I uploaded on this channel, you don't have to hold on to that dirt. When you let go and you wash that dirt away, your authentic self shines through, and that is who you truly are. And some people aren't going to like it, and some people are going to gravitate towards it, and that is okay. And yeah, once you start working on stuff like this, you're going to see who's really in your corner, and you're going to see who you have to let go of. Okay? And that's okay too. But just know that the journey only gets better. You only keep going better, getting better, and going to better heights and meeting better people. You just got to do you and live in your truth. And that is the best thing you could do for yourself. So with that being said, I'm going to end this video. And again, I would love to hear from you. And as always, peace and love. Bye.